We give you a reason to stay.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. I am Mr. Bobby, your co-host, and you're listening to it on radio the way it should be heard. That is TalkTainmentRadio.com. So the so-called holidays are over, and now Mr. Fuller is back. As a matter of fact, let me say this, that this show being today, the 29th it is? Yeah, 29th of November. We'll have this show. We will have a live show on December the 6th, and then our last show for 2017 will be December the 13th. So put that down. This show, the 29th, the 6th of December, and then the 13th of December. That's going to be the schedule. Then we will not have any live shows, but you can still hear some rebroadcast of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Fuller the following weeks. And then the next live show for 2018 will be January the 10th. So put that down on your calendar so that you will know what's going on here. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to take that phone call first before I finish up here. First of all, let me introduce Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
All righty. And how are you today?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay. I usually don't like to do this, but I'm going to take this phone call before I read whatever else I have to read. Go ahead, caller on line 2. You're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby and this Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, I'm a young man and I'm trying to get codified. So what were you doing in your 20s and what do you wish you were doing in your 20s?
Well, what I was doing was wasting time in my 20s. And just trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing, and, just come day, go day. I was like many young black people. You just don't have any direction about what you should be doing. And the directions that you are given, you have a lot of doubts about them because people tell you to try to be a success without going into any details about what all that's supposed to mean. Try to do something useful without going into any details about what all that's supposed to mean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you're just kind of out there just wandering around, bumping into things. Because when you look around, that's what you see most black people all over the world doing, just walking around, bumping into things. I mean, and just come day, go day. And then I knew nothing, about the depths of the system of racism. And that's what I should have been studying. I was interested in it because I had to be. But it was sort of like an aside, just something you have to put up with on your way to somewhere else, rather than something that you should devote your entire existence to. Because as I found out in my late 20s, that's the biggest problem on the planet. And you can't solve any other major problem without solving that problem. You just go from one big problem to another big problem, in my opinion. That's the conclusion I came to. But it took me almost 30 years to come to that conclusion. Nobody told me that right out of the gate, that the priority should be Everything you do, every move you make, everything you think about, dream about, should be connected with, first of all, replacing the system of racism, which is white supremacy, with the system of justice. Every move that you make should be with that in mind, that that's your ultimate goal, whether you're doing something casual, whether you're doing something with a lot of in-depth seriousness, whatever it is, that should be your ultimate goal. That should be your priority for everything. And that's the conclusion I came to. And I still have that conclusion. Why? Because I believe it's true. I believe that if you can't solve any major problem without solving that one, and the world is full of problems. You're faced with problems every minute of the day, either directly or indirectly. We're put here to solve problems, presumably. I came to that conclusion, too. And the biggest problem is the problem of racism in the form of what we call white supremacy.
All righty. Okay. Thank you, sir, for your call. And we will move on with today's program. All right. Listen, I have to read this. To watch the live broadcast of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller and me, your co-host, Mr. Bobby, go to YouTube and type in the word Talktainment, then hit the space bar and type in the word radio. Scroll down to the Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube, and you can also hear us live at talktainmentradio.com. Please like us and subscribe to YouTube and hear us live at talktainmentradio.com. You can do that. I understand that you can also hear a rebroadcast of the show on facebook.com/Talktainment. Is that correct, Ed? Yeah, you can do that. Okay. And also, you can do like you're doing now. You can call 1-877-932-9766, and we will take your calls. I would ask that let me get the introduction out from Mr. Fuller first, his book and so forth, and all the other details before you call. Please allow me to do that. And trust me, we do take your suggestions and we go over them, and we will do that. Also, you can Gmail me at the number 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com, and I will eventually get to them, and Mr. Fuller will address whatever questions that you have there. So 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call right now. I'm looking, and the phone lines are there, and looking forward to hearing from you. As far as shout-outs is concerned, unless they give them to me, I will not call them out, but if they give them to me, I will call your name out. Much thanks to the people in Dallas. Okay, now, for Mr. Fuller, most of you know he has the textbook out. For those of you are looking online here it is right here. I'm holding it up here. There you go. You can see a little bit. It's called the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and Mr. Fuller has written this book. And later on in the program, maybe about the 45-minute mark, we will have Mr. Fuller discuss where you can get the book and the word guide that goes along with the book. But you do need to get this book right here. Yeah, let me put that around. Yeah, you need to get this book right here so that you can follow along and see what Mr. Fuller is talking about. Okay, let me see here. Okay, next. I think I have a Gmail coming up here. Yeah, I do. Okay, this is from Brother George Thompson. He says, Mr. Fuller, I have zero interest in preserving any white genes. To me, they represent Satan, and I long for the day when God destroys every last one of them. There's a reason you are born white, because your father is the devil. Case closed. Whites would never admit to the real issue anyway. The only way to preserve them would be separation. That means they would have to return some of our land to us. They would never do that. Their entire self-esteem is based on our oppressing us. How can anyone, Mr. Fuller, come to an agreement or compromise when they want us dead unless we are entertaining them? Impossible. God would not allow it anyway. The Bible clearly states, do not give your sons and daughters to them. Could you comment on that, Mr. Fuller? Okay.
Well, the question is, do I believe that it's possible, I guess,
yes,
for white and non-white to exist in peace?
Yes.
On this planet.
Yes.
Is that possible? And I say probably it is possible. So therefore, I think in terms of just that. My entire writing is about that, establishing peace on the planet. And that didn't include anything, naturally, according to what I have written so far, and what I think so far, exterminating anybody.
Mm-hmm.
A whole category of people. People will have conflicts. I understand that, because the system of racism itself is designed for nothing but conflict, endless conflict. Okay? But I think that it's possible that we can, as Rodney King requested or raised a question about, can we all get along?
Yes.
And I think about that question all the time. Can we? Is it possible? And I say, yes, it probably is possible. And if it is possible, we should work toward it. But now, if it isn't possible, through the process of codification, I do believe this myself too, we can find out if it's possible. Just by trying everything that we can possibly try, and do it fast. See, don't drag it out for a long period of time. Try everything that is possible to try to get along in peace, to try to have justice, have people, nobody being mistreated, and everybody who needs constructive help getting it. That should be the goal. That's the compensatory definition for justice. Now, that should be the goal, and everybody should be on board with that. Now, if it's genetically impossible for any category of people to do that, then we have to address that for what it is, if we really find out for sure that it is impossible for white people and non-white people to occupy this planet in a peaceful setting.
Mm-hmm.
If it's absolutely impossible, we need to know that, and we need to know that real fast. And through codification, I think we can find that out.
Mm-hmm.
See, codification just means try everything that can possibly be tried. Try everything that can possibly be tried that we know about.
Mm-hmm.
And try to come to a fast conclusion, and then whatever conclusion we come to, go from that point.
Okay. In your summation, sometime you've mentioned the three T's, arrangements. Would be, I guess, the better term, being tragic, trashy, and terroristic. With that being said, in terms of getting along, if those arrangements are in place, then how could there be peace on this planet, or peace between blacks and whites?
Well, all arrangements, even between two people, are in place as long as they are in place. But it's been proven that two people who are going at each other can settle down and say, hey, let's stop this. A male with a female. Let's stop this fight. Let's stop this breaking up the furniture all the time. Every time somebody gets mad, we tear up the whole place. All right? We're not getting anywhere.
Right.
And so sometimes they just get tired of doing it, and they settle down and say, we got to come to some kind of terms, because this is not working out for anybody. All right?
It's not constructive.
And yeah, it's not constructive. And so people have, it's been proven that people can change. All right? So I'm just going by that fact. See, I use logic. Stay away from the emotional thing. Let emotion overcome logic.
Yes, sir.
The emotion is supposed to support logic.
Okay. So
we just look and see what is the possibility.
Okay.
Because black people may have a lot of elements in us, and that's been proven, that are not constructive.
Yes, sir.
We are capable of doing a lot of non-constructive things. And all of the people on the planet have proven to be very non-constructive most of the time.
Okay.
Really.
Okay.
All of the people of the planet. We're not as constructive, near as constructive as we could be, but we have shown some signs of being constructive.
Okay.
So why not just have full-time constructive activity? Full-time.
Absolutely.
And aim for that.
And
try to codify it so that it stays that way once it gets that way.
Okay. So with respect to the arrangements, it doesn't have to be necessarily tragic, trashy, or terroristic. That means that would qualify it as being a choice. Would that be correct? You choose to be terrorist.
In other words, we're not really working on it.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, a lot of black people, in particular, say there's no such thing as white supremacy. And I'm starting off saying it's not only a thing called white supremacy, it dominates everything that everybody does on the planet, 24/7.
So if you
complete system in all 9 areas of activity:
absolutely,
economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war. Everybody on the planet is dominated by an evil system.
True.
And that's why you have so much evil all the time, 24/7.
Okay.
People going at each other, trying to figure out ways to go at each other.
Okay.
And black people have become a huge part of that. We're spending full time. How can I be destructive?
Yes, that is
How can
true.
I tear up something? How can I make somebody angry? How can I go into an environment where somebody will make me angry? I mean, we're getting to the place where we worship that type of nonsense, and the white supremacists are leading it.
Yes, they are. So this is
so knowing that. See, the first order of business is to know what's going on.
Right.
And that's why I put it in the front of the book.
Exactly.
If you don't understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you understand will confuse you. And history has proven that when people are confused, they are non-constructive. You're automatically going to be a non-constructive person if you're confused about what your existence on this planet is all about.
Yes, sir.
And just going around just doing stuff.
So would that be indicative why you always say follow the logic? Because
follow the logic.
Because
whatever created the universe put logic in the universe.
So,
cause and effect. What is logic? Cause and effect. And everything is divided into 2 types of basic activity: constructive activity and non-constructive activity.
Yes, and it is
real simple.
And it's proven.
Every move that you make, if you sit down to a plate of food and you put your fork in that food and then put that food in your mouth with that fork.
Yes, sir.
That food that you're putting in your mouth with that fork is going to have a constructive effect or a non-constructive effect.
Yes, sir.
Either it's going to be food or it's going to be poison.
Okay.
It's going to have one or the other. Now, even the best of foods has some poison, but your body is constructed so that it does what? It takes out the nourishing part, the constructive part, and puts it into your body. It leaves it in your body, all right? And then it has a process for getting rid of what you call what? Waste.
Waste.
That's the part that's non-constructive.
Exactly.
So that's a message that right there, built into nature, that we all have some poison in us.
Ah.
All right? So we have to watch that poison and see that it doesn't take over. Okay? Keep that suppressed. Okay? And then take the constructive part and leave that to be nourishing. And that's what we want to do.
That's what we want to do.
Somebody wrote a song. I think it was a person called Johnny Mercer. accentuate the positive.
The positive, yes, I've heard that.
Which means positive. I don't particularly use the word positive. Or negative, because negative is too close to that word, Negro, whatnot.
Okay.
Yes, I say constructive, non-constructive.
All right. TalkTainmentradio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here are a few that I would like to share with you. Let's do this one right here, Senior Agenda with Lisa Stockdale. You can check that out. This is Libby is another show with host Libby Rand, and Everlasting Life with Michelle Vanal. Now, all these shows are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, click on Programs, and then when that happens, you can also see where you can get a listing of the shows, the times, and all the necessary information that you need for your listening enjoyment. That is exclusive from TalkTainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can do this, simply this. If you want to watch the live broadcast of the Compensatory Concept, go to YouTube and then type in the word Talktainment. Then hit the space bar and type in the word radio. Scroll down to the Talktainment #2 live on YouTube, and you can also hear us at TalkTainmentRadio.com. While you're there, hit that like button and then subscribe onto YouTube. And again, you can hear us live at TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com, or you can call in at 1-877-932-9766, and we will try to take your phone calls or get your phone calls up and have Mr. Fuller address your questions. Okay, this is from Brother Mitro from so-called French Guiana. Sorry I missed you, Brother Mitro. I understand you were in the States between November the 6th and the 22nd. But anyway, here's his question. He said that, Mr. Fuller, can you imagine what would happen if we, as black people, step outside our mental plantation and to be constructive with each other in every situation? If Mr. Fuller, is that possible?
Sure it's possible. I mean, it's already been proven everywhere on the planet that people can do constructive things. So why not just do constructive things all the time? And but we have been taught by the white supremacists that if you do everything constructive, you can't have fun. And that is a poison that is deeply ingrained in the black people of this planet. That constructive activity is not fun. But you got to be doing something that's non-constructive. So-called holidays are supposed to be non-constructive. In other words, get drunk on Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus, and drive down the highway and run into a tree. And that's supposed to be fun, okay? That's white supremacist thinking. And there's no connection at all, if you stop and use logic, with doing something non-constructive and saying that's fun. No, you can have tons of fun doing constructive things if you just look at it that way. I mean, all of the areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, you can have fun learning constructive things. I had a black sergeant, that used to always correct me for not thinking logically. And he usually when he got ready to start some kind of project, I mean, where we would physically and mentally improve ourselves, he would start off saying, and I think that's why I kind of picked it up, we're going to have some fun with this. Now, at the time he would say it, I'd say, oh, here we go. He's going to have us doing some work and call it fun. But I found out that, hey, sometimes, in fact, if it's constructive work, you can have a lot of fun doing constructive work because the work is constructive. You're going to benefit from it. You accomplish something. And after we get in the habit of trying it and looking back and saying, you know what, I got a lot done today. And I know now, you know, at the time I might not thought it was fun, but now that I look back on it, it was fun because it put me in position to do a whole bunch of things that I want to do. I accomplished a lot of things today that really are helping me rather than harming me. But the white supremacists have come around black people and they say, oh, what you're doing, oh, yeah, I mean, you know, that's drudgery. I mean, you know, that's, you don't want to get involved in that, too much of that. I mean, you can do a lot of it, I mean, in behalf of me, but if you're going to do anything for yourself, I mean, that's, that you usually think of as being constructive. Oh, no, you got to be doing something. You black people got to be doing something that's going to be really harmful to you in order for you all to have fun. You got to spread harm all over the neighborhood and then call it fun. All right? That's the way I'm going to teach you to think. Okay? Now, we know better, but we're going to put that on your mind because you don't have any mind of your own. All right? So that's what they have successfully done. And have us writing songs about it. Being as non-constructive as we possibly can be. Yes. Nothing, not a line in the song that says anything of constructive value. We need to check that. We need to check that and see if we can't make our songs popular by having something in it. We're not used to it. We're going to have to get used to it. That's of constructive value. That helps a person to think constructively for a change. It'll take us a long ways.
So then they dictate, teach us this racist way. In other words, they want us to teach us to think, speak, and act in a supremacist way because they are in control of it?
Sure. I mean, they control it all.
Yes.
And this is how we are in control of being controlled. This is why we are prisoners of war.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They made us prisoners of war, so how do you keep people in prison? By controlling their minds.
Exactly.
All right? You control what they think.
Yes, sir.
You control what they think is important. You know? And like in the movie Shawshank Redemption. What was important to the people that were in there? Well, there was a group going around starting fights. There was a group going around trying to sodomize people. There were other people, individuals, who were making their claim to fame, like Red was, being able to get things that he wasn't supposed to be able to get, and sneak them into the prison. All right? So you become, you know, in a prison you become small-minded, and small things become your whole world because you are taught and trained to think small, not on a grand scale.
But in that scenario, though, didn't the warden had to allow this activity to go on? The warden was aware that this was going on, so he controlled that. Is that correct?
Yes, like in the movie Shawshank Redemption, which is a movie that I recommend that's full of lessons. See what I mean? How the warden, who is the master of the prison, thinks, and all of the crooked things that he was doing, and getting other people to not even be able to tell the difference between what's crooked and what's not.
Okay.
All right, because he's a part of the crookedness because the system itself is crooked.
Yes, exactly,
okay?
Exactly.
So that's the white supremacist system.
Right.
To just teach everybody to be just as corrupt as they possibly can be, and even the things that are supposed to be not corrupt are corrupt.
Right.
And then they just stand back and look at the whole thing and say, now, this is our masterpiece.
Right.
We love it.
So
we want everybody else to love it and continue it into infinity.
Yes.
And the black people, the non-white people of this planet, should say in one voice right now, enough already. Enough of this. Enough of this non-constructive nonsense that you push off on people, glorifying murder, all right? You know, talking about even in religion, I mean, you glorify murder. You have a holiday called Christmas coming up, and you're going to be sending people Christmas presents of DVDs and all kind of games for children that has to do with what? Killing people.
Okay.
Killing people. That's what it's going to be.
Alrighty.
All kinds of video games and whatnot.
Right.
About what? Tearing up something. Not building anything.
Yes, sir.
Like the premises philosophy.
Let me ask you to hold it right there. TalkTimeRadio.com. We go where you go. You can check us out on 94.1 WGRN, and the podcasts are available. All you have to do is download the TalkTimeRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Coming up next, we're going to talk about how to think logically and answer your Gmails and phone calls. All that and more coming up next. I'm Mr. Bobby. I'm the co-host of The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller here on TalkTimeRadio.com. Listen, to access the show, to watch it live, the live broadcast of the show, all you have to do is go to YouTube and type in the word Talktainment. Then hit the space bar and type in the word radio. Scroll down to Talktainment 2, number 2, live on YouTube, and you can also hear us at TalkTainmentRadio.com. Please like us, by the way, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And hear us live here at TalkTainmentRadio.com. You can access the show also by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com, and we will try to get to them as soon as we can. We are speaking and listening to the suggestions of Mr. Fuller about how to think logically. And before we go on, let's take a phone call. Okay, what line am I on here? Line 3? Okay, line 3, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Yes, good day, gentlemen, as usual. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. I have no problem with anything Mr. Fuller says as usual. My goal is staying codified. I understand racism, white supremacy, no question about that. My issue is we lose in numbers because the white supremacists have so many of our people in a mindset or have control of their minds. And I was thinking about going out and, go to a couple places where I see a lot of black people shopping, but in their own communities, and they don't hire black people that work in their own communities, like at the market in the city I live in. There are a lot of Asians and own all the stalls, but they hire all Latino people to work, but it's all black people there shopping.
Okay.
They don't hire any black people to shop. So I wanted to try to arouse people classified as black to, if you're not going to support the communities, if people are going to come into your communities and not support your communities and put nothing back into the communities, then we need to not support these stores or businesses. And I just wanted to know what Mr. Fuller thought of that, because even though the people are classified as non-white, they own the stalls, they still look at people of black classified as black, look down on those people.
Okay.
I know that for a fact.
Okay.
I don't know how you handle that.
All right, just a moment. Okay, Mr. Fuller?
I'm trying to understand the question.
Okay. Sir, could you just shorten it real quick so Mr. Fuller can answer, just real quick?
Sure. What I'm saying is, people in black communities, you have other white people working in those communities that don't hire black people, like Asian, Indian, whatever you want to classify these people as. But they don't hire black people, and they look down upon the black people there. So I wanted to put something together to arouse, to wake up black people to say, hey, if these people don't want to spend money in your community or hire your children or people or give it an opportunity to work that way, then don't support them.
Okay, what would be your question to Mr. Fuller? just in the form of a question.
Does he think that's a constructive thing to do?
Okay, Mr. Fuller.
Well, it comes down to the details. You have the mom and pop stores. You have all kinds of big box stores and whatnot. You just say, what do we do when we interact with the people who are running the stores? You ask for jobs. I mean, sometimes the people will say, well, I hire the people where I came here from somewhere else, but, from another neighborhood of the world, which the world is a neighborhood, you might say. And so when I get set up in my business, I send for people who are members of my family or people that I know to work for me. And I have them come here and work with me and try to get on, because that's why I'm where I am. And it's not because I'm against you or anything like that. So you have to talk to the people and ask why they're doing what they are doing. All right? That's how you find out about anything. You have to talk to people. Talk to the people that you have the problem with. That's why I always say that black people should talk to white people and find out, first of all, those 4 things that are in the textbook. What is it you want to do?
Yes.
Why do you want to do it? How do you plan to do it? And what do you expect the constructive result to be? And you can ask the person who runs the little store down on the corner, just engage that person in a conversation. What do you want to do? And the person will say, well, I want to run a store here to make some money. I'm trying to get on my feet and whatnot, or whatever the person's answer is. And don't help the person with the answer. That's another thing. And don't argue with the person about the answer. Listen for the answer. The person is giving you his or her answer. That's what you want. You already have your answers, so you don't argue about that. You are asking a question. Stick to the questions. What is it you want to do? Since you came here and took this vacant building, which the white, if it's a non-white person, the white supremacists let them have that building, by the way. The reason you don't have the building is because the white supremacists told you couldn't get it. See, so they control it anyway. The only reason that person could have gotten that boarded up building has been sitting there for the last 40 years. The only reason that person could come from somewhere thousands of miles away and set up shop in that place, the only reason, just one reason, is because the white supremacists, directly or indirectly, said, now I will help you to establish this business here. Even though the people around there have been asking to help do something with it themselves for years. Or maybe they haven't been. All right? But I am going to place you here. That's the place where I'm going to place you. Because you're not going nowhere other than where I want you to go anyway, because you're non-white. So I will put you there, knowing full well that when I put you there, there's going to be hostility between you and those other non-white people here, which is why I put you there in the first place. See, I know it's going to be hostility.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
a master of hostility. So I know that you and they are not going to get along, all right, for whatever reasons. And so that just spreads the conflict.
Okay.
So they always have their motive.
Yes, sir.
But see, in order for us to counteract that, we have to talk to the people, find out how they did what they did, all right?
Okay.
Sometimes they had plenty of money before they came there, but the white supremacists saw to it that they had plenty of money.
Okay.
In order to get that place.
All righty.
See? You need answers to questions. That's all.
Okay.
Everything is questions and answers.
Okay. Let me see that. Before I do this, I need to talk about Mr. Fuller's book, and then the caller, and then the DNA. Is that correct? Is that the sequence? I'm asking. Is that the sequence? All right. Mr. Fuller, This is the 45-minute mark. Speak to us a little briefly about your book, and then we'll go on from there.
You can get the textbook for victims of white supremacy by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of a basic textbook and then an additional volume called a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide. And I just want to interject this too. Right now, the word guide is not available in England. And it's because of some technical things that has to be ironed out before it is available in England. But the first book, the basic book, the Compensatory Counter-Racist Code that came out in 2016, a revised, expanded edition, that is available in England. But you go to producejustice.com, and a brief description of both volumes is there at that website. Also, the method for ordering, producejustice.com. And the book is designed to be addressed to the individual person, because in my opinion, if you solve the problems, this is the logic, if you solve the problems of each individual non-white person on the entire planet, if you solve the problems of the individual person in all of the areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, if you can solve all of the problems of the individual person, you will be solving the problems of all of the people. And because I say that codification, ultimately, and in the beginning, regardless of what it looks like on the surface, is all an individual action. Thought, speech, and action.
Okay.
And when you have everybody thinking the correct way, everybody speaking the correct way, and everybody acting the correct way, as individual persons, you have all of the people as a whole thinking, speaking, and acting in the correct way. But they do it voluntarily, which is the best way for anybody to do anything. When people voluntarily do it because it's to their best interest, that's why. And that's the page that we want to be on.
All righty. Okay. TalkTimeAtRadio.com. You can call in, which we're getting ready to take a phone call, 1-877-932-9766. Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com. And that's B-O-B-B-Y. And I will try to get to them. And you can also do this. You can get the compensatory concept by simply going to YouTube and type in the word Talktainment. Then hit the space bar, type in the word radio, scroll down to Talktainment #2 live on YouTube. And again, you can also hear us live at TalkTimeAtRadio.com. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. And also, you can view the show, not now, but on podcast, I believe it is. You can also go to Facebook.com/Talktainment. That's Facebook.com/Talktainment, and you can hear a rebroadcast of the shows. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. What lines are we on? Number 3? Okay. Number 3, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Yes, my name is Tommy Horn. I reside in California. I'm an educator, and I've been studying Neely Fuller's work for the past 2 years, watching the podcast, studying both books, and I realized as an educator that this book is vital for the next generation.
Yes.
Because a lot of the current generation, me being an adult, it's a little bit too where we're set in our ways, but I wanted to ask Neely Fuller, because I've been studying the compensatory counter-racist code, if it's okay for me to create a study guide that would be easier to teach my students the concepts, just creating questions that the book answers in a curriculum in a fashion that's easier for the children. I teach 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, for them to understand. And I'm in the process of, I was thinking that every area activity created or transitioned into a study guide for the next generation? And how does he feel about somebody doing something like that?
Okay.
For children to learn about his work.
All right, Mr. Fuller?
Well, don't think of what I'm doing as being in some type of box. I just try to tap into the logic that's in the universe. See, that's why I say we should be striving to be, or working toward being, universal man, universal woman. And what does that mean? That means being able to go anywhere or function in any environment in the known universe with utmost constructive efficiency. That's all it is. And so that means being able to raise questions and getting answers to the questions. Because all so-called progress comes from questions and answers. So you don't have to think of, well, how can I come up with some type of plan within the scope of the compensatory code and use that as a lesson format to spread to other people. Don't think of it that way. Think of anybody who comes to you, and people come to people all the time with a question. See, the whole idea of codification is universal, and it all is questions and answers. That's all it is. That's all any codification is. Questions and answers to the questions. That's all existence on the entire planet is about. It's about problem solving. And so, how do you solve problems? Through the process of what? Questions and answers. That's the way you think of it. Not as putting it in some type of box and say, I'm going to institutionalize this. No, it's already institutionalized because it's built into the universal laws, the laws of the entire universe. Questions and answers. That's all it is. So all you really have to do, you don't have to scratch your head and say, what type of box, what category do I put all this in? I mean, how do I describe it? You just describe it as questions and answers. I mean, you don't have to give any other label to it. I mean, and when you talk to any people, and people ask this question all the time, what do you tell young people? You tell young people the same thing you tell old people. You just tell them the truth. Tell them the truth about what? What the answer to a question is that will have the most constructive effect. That's all it is. It's nothing else. There's nothing. The white supremacists have made everything, in boxes. A box of this and box of that. The black community, that's a box. A black Wall Street, that's a box. A box called a coffin, which black people have learned to worship. The only time we see people we haven't seen in a long time is standing around crying around some coffin where somebody got shot in the hood last week. And the so-called hood is what? Another box.
Yes, sir.
See, we've got to get out of these box-type thinking. We are in a universe.
Yes.
I mean, and it just goes on and on and on and on. It's open-ended. That's why I call the compensatory concept an open-air concept.
Yes.
Rather than full wall.
Yeah, break out the jail. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, break it. That jail. See, jail is another box. And then inside of the so-called jail, you got things called cells, which is another box.
Right.
And inside of that one, you got something called what? Solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement.
That's another box.
Mm-hmm.
Always put black people in some kind of box and say, now this is your assignment. This is your territory. I mean, all of you people that you call Native Americans or whatnot, I got a reservation.
Reservation, yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is reserved for you. Now, what is reserved for me? The entire universe. All of you dark-skinned people. I'm a white supremacist. I go anywhere. I go into all the different planets and whatnot.
And dominate.
Millions of them out there. I mean, millions of the planets out there, and I go to all of them. All of them belong to me.
Yes, sir.
Everything belongs to me.
Yes,
Every
sir.
drop of water belongs to me. You belong to me. And you belong to me, and I put you in a box, and you learn to love that box. This is the hood.
Yes.
This is my block. And you got black people walking around with guns, saying, what are you doing over here on my block? And he doesn't own
nothing.
2 feet of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And proof of it is, anytime the white supremacists want to come and move him and his grandmother out of that row house down there on the corner, they just do it and don't even bring guns. They just bring bulldozers.
That's what they
They'll be
do.
out of here by June the 1st. You and your black granny. And your arsenal of firearms and whatnot you got hid under the mattress. That's what you use on your other people.
Yes.
That you've been around here for the last 15 years claiming this is your block. Well, you are out of this block, and all your people that you've been shooting at, they're going to be out of their block too, because I'm gentrifying this whole place.
Yes, sir.
Out of here, all of you. Get out.
Yeah.
This is mine.
Yes, sir.
Like you are mine. Like your grandfather's mine. I'm giving it to you straight dose.
Total domination by them.
Yes. Get out of that box thinking. That's the main thing I want to say. Getting back to the point that the gentleman is asking me about. He doesn't get my permission to do that. All he's got to do is say, I'm going to set up a bunch of questions and answers.
Okay.
That's it. And I'm going to get answers to all of these questions, because that's how everything is done. Not some things. Everything is a matter of questions and answers. If a person is going to open a business, first thing they have is, what kind of business am I going to open? That's the question. All right? How much money am I going to make? All right? What am I opening a business for in the first place? What kind of business? Questions, 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 and answers, 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 answers. It takes everybody right where they need to be.
Everybody, wow. All righty. Very, very interesting. Okay, my brother from California, there's your answers right there, and you take that information or suggestion and do what you will. We appreciate you calling in and all the callers. That's what this here for. Questions and answers, or as Mr. Fuller called it, suggestions. Okay, when you hear the music, you know what that means. That means that we are coming to the close of the first hour. But our first question up next hour will be a question concerning DNA. So we'll have all the graphics up with that, and you can look at those graphics on YouTube. TalkTainMenTradio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the second half of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come.
The world's greatest radio.
We give you a reason to stay.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Okay, good morning and welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who is live on the line from Washington, D.C., And, of course, I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. And most important thing, this is radio the way it should be heard. Listen, you can watch this show live, the live broadcast of the compensatory concept, by going to YouTube and then type in the word Talktainment. Then hit the space bar and type in the word radio. Scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube. And you can also hear us at talktainmentradio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. While you're there, hit that like button and most importantly, subscribe to YouTube. And also you can hear us again at talktainmentradio.com. You can hear a rebroadcast of this program on facebook.com/Talktainment. You can do that there. You can also call in at 1-877-932-9766, or you can hit me up by going to the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby at gmail.com, and as time permits, I will get to your Gmails. Mr. Fuller is the author of the book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. We will have Mr. Fuller at the 45-minute mark, somewhere around there, speak again how you can get the book and what the book contains and all the pertinent information. So we'll do that at the 45-minute mark. You might want to make yourself available to that if you don't have a copy or copies of the book. That would be a good present that you might want to give somebody for the celebration of Christmas. You might want to consider that. Okay. This is basically a potpourri show. Mr. Fuller is going to be answering your questions and any subject, so feel free to call 1-877-932-9766. Let's go to the Gmails. This comes from brother, I guess he calls himself Race Rules. He says this, Mr. Fuller: whites as a whole have zero interest in the elimination of white supremacy. They enjoy it because it confers undeserved advantages unto them that translate into more comfortable lives. They are addicted to it just like their opiate epidemic. Knowing this, and they will never change, is it logical to assume that the elimination of white supremacy equates with the elimination of whites as a species? They are not part of the human species because of their own science has proven that their DNA is substantially different from that of people of color. We are not like them at all. Could you comment on that, Mr. Fuller?
Well, like I said, I don't really know if that's true. I've heard people say that's true, that it's impossible for white people who are classified as white, to be a peaceful people, to be a people who can practice justice. I guess that's what people are saying. Some people are saying it. And so a question is raised, is it possible for black people to do it? Now, some people say black people, yes. Black people are pure people. Black people are not capable of doing anything that shouldn't be done. Well, I haven't seen any evidence of that. I haven't seen any evidence where any people are the quality of people that people should be. Now, that's what I have seen on the little time that I've spent on this planet. I have not met a person yet that, in my way of thinking, which I think is according to logic, the little bit that I do have, and as far as I've come with it in these years, I say that people are capable of being a whole lot better than they are, and that no people, not one person, I don't care who it is, you name anybody, I don't believe there's any person anywhere who is not seriously flawed, because we are in a seriously flawed environment. So I don't believe in praising anybody who is in the form of a person walking around on this planet today. Now, maybe in some ancient time, maybe yes. I leave that open because I wasn't here. But I don't believe any person could be pointed to today as being an example of exactly how a person should be. Not one. Because even what we say is a person that doesn't have flaws. That's a flaw right there. That's my belief. But that's just my belief. Under the United Independent System, I can have that belief until I'm led to believe something else. Now, there are some people who have concluded that a whole category of people who are called white, are just no good at all. And there are a lot of people who classify themselves as white who have said that whole categories of other people, like, for instance, years ago, I used to hear the expression, the only good Indian is a dead Indian.
Wow.
That was a very common expression.
What?
I've also heard the expression, to substitute the word Indian, the only good, and they didn't say black person.
N-word.
Or, yeah, they said N-word. The only good N-word is a dead one. The only good one. You ain't going to find no good ones. I mean, except those that are dead. That's the best ones that you can get.
Wow.
I mean, that should be the definition of what they are. I mean, you know, when you see a dead one, now you got a good one.
Wow.
If that thing is walking around here alive, it should be dead. Because it ain't got no business walking around.
You actually heard this?
Oh, sure. Those are two common expressions I heard all the time. I mean, invented by whom? Most likely the usual suspects, the white supremacists. You know, the only good Negro is a dead Negro. The only good Indian is a dead Indian. I mean, you know, hey, if he's breathing, hey, he should be dead. He got no business walking around here breathing. You know, how did that happen?
Wait a minute.
What miracle brought that about?
Wait a minute, Mr. Fuller. Wait a minute. You mean a so-called God-fearing nation, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, would say something like that?
There were plenty of people who said that. I didn't make that up. I heard that from a very small person. I was hearing those expressions. But, you know, depending on what you mean by good, I was saying, well, now, the people who are saying that, are they good? See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
You see, I mean, that raises questions, see? I don't get angry about something that somebody says. I examine what they're saying, all right?
To see if it's true or not true.
By asking what? Enough questions.
Questions, yes, sir.
So if a person says the only good Negro, the only good black person is a dead one, okay? All right, well, okay, now what do you mean by good? That's a question.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask, are you good? Since you made that statement, sir, or ma'am. And always be courteous. See, don't argue. Just ask questions.
Well, what is good? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, let's find out what good is first. What does a good person do?
Yeah.
I mean, each and every minute of each and every day. And for how long? See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
The person will say, well, I'm a good person. On account of what? So you ask a question. You're a good person. Oh, you're a good person. On account of what? Oh, on account of what I did yesterday. All right. Well, wait a minute. What are you doing now? Okay. Are you good right this minute? Have you been good all the time? Every time? What do you mean by good?
Yeah, a definition of good has to be established.
A definition of good. See, that's why in the code book, in the word guide, I say stay away from that word good. Why? Because in a known universe dominated by white supremacists, we don't know what good is.
Yes.
I came to that conclusion based on what? Logic.
So the logic would indicate that you have to ask questions in order to
Yes, and you ask questions of every word that the person
uses. Okay, I get that.
Just don't get angry if the person calls you the N-word.
What is that?
What do you mean by that?
Yes, sir.
And what are you going to do now that you know that that's what I am? All right? Because it always comes down to the doing part. So you want to get to that question, okay, now that you know that I am what you call me, the N-word, now that you know that, and that's what you say I am, what do you do about me being what I am?
Right.
Or what you say I am.
That's the
I
logic.
just want to know what you're going to do.
Yes, that's the logic behind that.
I don't even want to know how you feel.
Right.
I want to know what you're going to do.
Right.
And
right.
this is important. See, I mean, don't get angry. Just say, okay, sir, now that you say that I am the N-word, what are you going to do? What are we going to do now? Do we dance or what? You know, I just want to know what you're going to do, and I want to know what you're going to do about me in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Now that you say that you know that I am the N-word, what do you do with a person who is the N-word? What are you going to do, sir? What are you going to do, ma'am? That's all I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And once you tell me what you're going to do about me being what you call me, then I know what I'm going to do about you. See what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. You
follow understanding now.
Yeah. You follow the logic.
I don't want to know how you feel. I don't want to know the history of nothing. I just want to know what you're going to do.
What you're going to do,
and what you're going to be doing this day going forward.
And if they tell you what they're going to do,
now you make your plan. Once they tell you, if they tell the truth, of course, knowing the white supremacists, they'll usually say, "Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that."
Yes, sir.
You know, and I mean, just me calling you the N-word, that doesn't mean nothing. I'm going to be real nice to you. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. See me, but and that's usually what they tell you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But if they tell you something else, now if they tell you that they're going to be nice to you, now you want to know what? You still got a question. What do you mean by nice? What do you mean by you going to be nice to me?
So you're always asking questions.
All areas of activity. So you just don't want to know about one area.
Yes, sir.
So see, they'll pull that trick. They'll say, "Oh, well, I'm going to give you money." And see, since they have got us all fascinated about money, and money is useful for sure, they'll say, "Oh, well, that's fine. I'm going, and then they'll tell you maybe, or they don't tell you the other things they're going to do after they give you the money. Say, now, after I give you the money,
then what?
I'm going to come around tomorrow. After I give you $1 million today, I'm coming around tomorrow, and I'm going to bring some opium.
Uh-oh.
But I'm not going to tell you what it is. But I'm going to give it to you, saying that I am still helping you. See, I'm still on that helping kick. See, but what does the code say about the white supremacists? Anytime they give you something that's constructive, they got something coming right behind it that is non-constructive. Always look out for that.
Wow. Whew. Woo. That's something else here. Speaking about something else, listen, this show today on the 29th of November, we're going to be doing this show live, and on December the 6th, that'll be live, and December the 13th will be the last live show of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller and, of course, yours truly, Mr. Bobby. And we will be, and any show after that will be in the same time slot, but it'll be rebroadcast of previous shows. So after the 13th of December 2017, there will be no more live shows until January the 10th. That'll be the next live show, 2018. So just keep that in mind. So, don't call in because it's not going to happen for you. So there you go. You have that. Speaking about that, let's do this. Talktainment Radio is a 24/7, no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts that actually are delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's a couple or three that I would like to say to you. One of my favorites is, of course, New Money with Drew and Janae. You can listen to that. Super Cool with Kahari, who happens to be here today. Kahari Anaro, he's here today. And also, how about this? The Voice of Deliverance with Dr. Carr Robinson. Now, listen, all these shows are exclusive the talktainmentradio.com. And all you have to do is simply go to the talktainmentradio.com homepage and click on programs. And while you are there, somebody asked me the other day, can we still make donations? Absolutely, because there is a donate button there. Which you can donate. You don't have to wait till the donate season. And if this program is informative to you and you like it, go ahead, hit that donate button. And, of course, we will be happy because all that goes in production of this hour, the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. That would be a nice, if you will, Christmas present. But anyway, go to the talktainmentradio.com homepage. Click on programs for the scheduled times. All that is exclusive from Talktainment Radio. That is radio the way it should be heard. Okay, moving along. If you want to watch the program, all you have to do is simply go, the live broadcast, go to the YouTube channel, type in the word Talktainment. Then hit the space bar and type in the word radio. Scroll down to the Talktainment #2 live on YouTube. That's all you have to do. And, of course, you can hear us live at talktainmentradio.com, which most of you are doing. And also you can do this. If you missed anything, there will be a rebroadcast of today's program on facebook.com/Talktainment. You can do that. Also do this. Especially you, Brother Muko. You can dial 1-877-932-9766. We will do that. Or you can hit me up on the Gmail. I will read your Gmails at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. And I will read your email. Hopefully, I'll get to read them today, and we can go on from there. But, yeah, call in, 1-877-932-9766, and we can go from there. Okay, now, let's go this. This is from Root Dog from the Gmails, Strategies for Confusions. He says, "Greeting, Mr. Fuller. There have been news lately of several natural disasters, notably in Puerto Rico, Houston, and Florida. Some of us are aware of the Caribbean islands as well. We are well aware of the poisoning of the drinkable water in Flint, Michigan. I have also heard of several stories of Legionnaire's disease in New York City." Beginning on page 24 of the revised expanded edition, 2016 edition of the Code, your book begins to outline explain the 6 major racism, white supremacy strategies for confusion. Number 2, racial population, dislocation, confusion, and number 3, racial population tailoring on confusion. And 2 are that will be, if not really, already applied to the suspected racism, white supremacists. Question: does the suspected racist white supremacists lay out plans years in advance for the confusion after natural or man-made disasters?
Answer is yes. Sometimes years in advance, sometimes in the next 15 minutes. But they always have a plan. Why? Because they have a system going. White supremacy runs on business principles. So if you study business principles, because the system of white supremacy is a business, and a business should show a profit, so they just figure out ways for their business to show the profit of white supremacy. That's the profit that goes with it. For fun, for glory, and for material comfort for people who are classified as white. So they have these basic strategies for confusion, because when you confuse people, you can control them. All right? So they have the racial classification confusion. You know, they keep coming up with new classifications, biracial.
Okay.
Without describing exactly what that's supposed to mean in a functional sense.
Yes, sir.
I mean, what's the purpose of classifying somebody as biracial? What's the purpose of it? I mean, that's a question. Remember, all problems are solved through the process of what? Questions and answers. So you can just take the first one, racial classification confusion. Now, in 1860, in the Northwestern Hemisphere, the racial classifications officially, quote unquote, were what? White, black, and mulatto. Now you have, in 2017, I think, something like over 20 racial classifications. Now, people haven't changed that much since 1860. So, and you can go back to maybe the first question. What are racial classifications supposed to do anyway? What's the purpose of having racial classifications? You classify people by race in order to do what? In all of the 9 areas of activity. I mean, why are you doing this? And who's doing it? And for what purpose? Okay? So, these questions should be raised all the time. All right? Racial classification confusion. That's one of the racist strategies, white supremacist strategies. Racial population dislocation confusion. All right? Racial population tailoring confusion. Now, what do we mean by tailoring confusion? Meaning you cut down on the numbers of people. Rwanda was a case of that. A little experiment, according to logic. That was an experiment by the white supremacists. How can you get black people to kill each other in huge numbers in just a matter of a few weeks on a scale almost unprecedented in such a short period of time in any of the wars? 800,000 people in just a matter of a few weeks. 800,000 people killing each other according to some reports. I don't know if the reports are true or false, but they say that the reports are true. In just one place, 800,000 black people slaughtering each other in just a matter of a few weeks.
Wow.
A few weeks. Stop and think about it. And then the killing stopped. When what? When the white supremacists decided that it would stop. Because they are the usual suspects in getting it started in the first place. Based on what? Information. They spread the information. Rumors. Stirring up one so-called tribe against another. And probably getting ready to do it again. Because they repeat things that they see that work. And they're probably all gearing up to start it again. And they're doing it on an ongoing basis everywhere. Chicago, Baltimore, in the Northwestern Hemisphere, all over that place called Rio, on a routine basis, from what I've heard, in Brazil. I mean, just black people slaughtering each other in the city of God. That's what they call it. A big statue presiding over all of it on a hill. And what's that supposed to mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, people can argue back and forth about what it is supposed to mean, but I have concluded the usual suspects up to their usual stuff.
Yes.
Population tailoring.
Yes.
Not trying to kill everybody. I've heard, people say, many black people say, that what the white supremacists are planning on doing is exterminating all of the black people. Well, I concluded a long time ago, if they wanted to do that, we'd have been gone.
Yeah.
Because nothing could have stopped them. Nothing can stop them now.
Nothing can stop them
Who
now.
would care?
Right.
Not even black people would care. Truth be told.
Truth be told.
Black Lives Matter? Oh, yeah, we say that, but we don't act like it.
Yeah.
Truth be told, we don't act like it among each other. Always stirring up any kind of anything full of animosity, for the most part. But we're trained to do that.
Yes, sir.
By whom? The usual suspect.
Usual suspect. As a matter of fact, Mr. Fuller, as you were speaking, our graphics department is putting up photographs on the YouTube channel of just exactly what you're speaking of, and it's really almost hard to look at. exactly what you're talking about, the slaughter of people. So thank you to the graphics department. Yeah, go into the YouTube channel. You can see exactly what Mr. Fuller is talking about. So, Mr. Fuller, with all that being said, could you conclude or suggest that these so-called wars that go on are all controlled by the white supremacists?
It's not but one war, and that's the war between those who believe in white supremacy and those who don't. And everything else is just a battle.
Okay, well, these
in
battles.
the system of white supremacy.
Okay, all
Why?
right.
Because the system of white supremacy is worldwide 24/7. So it is war. And all of the non-white people on this planet called Earth have been made prisoners of war. We're not in the process of becoming prisoners. We are already prisoners. We are born in prison. Why? Because as long as the system of white supremacy has been in business, and I don't know when it got started, but when it got established firmly worldwide, it has never, ever relinquished its power. That's why it's called white supremacy.
Okay.
It means supreme.
Okay.
24/7 everywhere.
Okay.
Not some places, all places.
All places, okay.
And everybody classified as non-white come under the dictates of the white supremacists.
Okay.
Now, that statement I just made
is either
true or false.
Okay, well, then let me ask you this then. Based on what you just said, would the battle that's going on in or with Korea, could that logically be classified or suggested as being a distraction in the system of racism, white supremacy?
It could be some type of deceptive thing, but you better believe it's all geared up to be destructive to non-white people. All right? So anything that you see, anytime you see any type of gun, any type of bomb.
Or missiles.
Yes, any type of missile. The usual suspects are the white supremacists, regardless of what it looks like on the surface.
Right, okay.
Because they are the ones who control everything when it comes to destruction. Even when it's in the hands of whether a person who is a scientist in a laboratory or some industrialists who are designing some new type of missile and all like that, and they're all people of color or whatnot, or if it's a barefoot black boy, 12 years old, with an AK-47 rifle, running through the woods, killing his neighbors. The white supremacists are always, without exception, the usual suspects.
Yes.
I don't care how it looks on the surface.
Okay.
The white supremacists are gearing it up.
Gearing it up. All right.
They will set up non-white people and make them think that they have some power.
Okay.
Because they have a few guns, or tanks,
yes,
or airplanes, and the white supremacists laugh at them.
Okay.
Why? Because they set it up.
All right.
They're the ones that gave it to them.
We got to
They didn't invent anything on their own. So the white supremacists, when they give you anything, to give you a gun, they always got something better.
Okay.
Than what they gave you.
We got to hold it there.
So they laugh at you when you think that you are going to use what they have against them. Because they got something better. They know how you're going to use it. They know how you're going to come at them.
All righty. TalkTimeRadio.com. Radio the way it should be heard. Mr. Bobby, BOBBY @gmail.com. Also, you can do this. You can watch the program live. All you have to do is go to YouTube, type in the word Talktainment, then hit the space bar and type in the word radio. Scroll down to Talktainment #2 live on YouTube, and you're there. You can also hear us live at TalkTimeRadio.com. And while you're there, hit the like button, and you can subscribe to us on YouTube. And the rebroadcast of this show will also be on Facebook.com/Talktainment. You can do that. All righty. We're going to ask Mr. Fuller about this. It's concerning Mary Turner. If you don't know about her, there's a good piece in, I guess, Wikipedia that describes that. But one of our people wrote in about that and said, Mr. Fuller, I'm almost at a loss for words that a human would do that to another human. What they did is they lynched her, and I think they cut a baby out of her, an unborn baby, a fetus out of her. Anyway, which they don't consider being human at all, and cut the unborn from Mary. Like, that is so disgusting. It is beyond sick, beyond demented, and even deeper than the lowest thing in the earth. I'm really at a loss for words. I've heard of similar stories from the slave breaking days, including the rape of women, children, and men, cutting out of the babies from the womb in the islands, and most despicable subhuman conditions that people had to live in human history. I still can't find the words. Mr. Fuller, can you speak on what you know about the slave breaking processes and the cutting out of unborn fetuses, not only in the islands, but I understand in other countries? I think, the Congo and Rwanda and all that. Can you speak to that?
Well, I haven't heard about the stories you're talking about, but I've heard of similar stories.
Okay.
All down through the years. I mean, every type of atrocity that you can possibly name. I mean, burning people alive and all this. I mean, this is routine throughout the whole history of the system of racism. A lot of white people did it to each other. I mean, down through the ages and whatnot. When you, for entertainment, can go to a modern building, what was modern at that time and still is, I mean, considering, your appreciation of what you call architecture, or something like the Colosseum in Rome. That was some prime real estate, and still is considered to be. I mean, people come from all over the world just to go and marvel at it and whatnot, take pictures and whatnot. And what was going on there? They were feeding people to the lions. So, anytime you take a person and put that person in chains and then waltz that person over to an arena, a sports arena, and then take the chains off of the person and give that person maybe a knife or a sword or a spear and say, okay, now turn the lions loose. And you turn loose 2 or 3 lions, and you watch the person try to pin him or herself from being torn apart by some hungry lions. And you sit there in that Colosseum, and you applaud. Now, this is what you call civilization. They call it civilization. And they teach people this in 2017, that these were civilized people. So then you take, with that type of history, you can expect people to do almost anything. And they have done all kinds of things and taught generations after them to do similar things. So no one should be marveling at any of this. It goes with the system, really, particularly of the system of white supremacy. I mean, slaughtering people and dreaming up new ways to slaughter people and entertain yourself while doing it is nothing new. And it's right in your face every day when you see some of the best-made books that were ever put between 2 covers. I mean, you design a book, you set up a printing press, and you put on this press paper and binding, and then the words on those pages that you send out to the entire world, sometimes 600 and 700 pages in one book. Big glossy books, expensive books, pretty books. I mean, and you line those books up and stack them up in warehouses where, people are outside those warehouses sleeping on the streets. But you got a warehouse here full of books stacked up to the ceiling, huge boxes of books being shipped out all the time, And what are those books about? Murder mysteries. They're going to send out millions of them. I mean, for what you might call, quote, unquote, Christmas presents. You open your glossy package with all of the little Santa Clauses on them and all like that. And you unravel that package and take all the fancy wrappings off of it. And you have this book inside of the package. And what is the title of the book? The Vampire's Revenge. And you got some bloody corpse lying there with some type of animal standing over it. I mean, that's part person and part bat or something like that. And it's 600 pages of what they call thrills. And it's all about killing.
Wow.
So if you write stuff like that and teach it in schools, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, this is very popular in schools. Murder mysteries.
Right. Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes. Who done it?
Yeah.
The headless corpse.
Yeah.
The body in the basement. Murder at midnight. So what do you expect? When people read stuff like that over and over again, they'll look around from that book and say, maybe I can do some of this.
Yeah.
So they do it. And have done it.
Yes.
And you'll get more of it under the system of white supremacy because they love it.
Okay. Our graphic department has put up the thing about Mary Turner. And I suggest those of you who are on YouTube, well, you were able to see it, but if you haven't, go back to it. Our graphic department put up the story of what they did to her husband, and her unborn child in correlation with what Mr. Fuller has said. Before we take the phone call, let's do this. Mr. Fuller, we got a phone call coming up, but at this time, we need you to address your book, and then we'll take the phone call.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's produce, like in production. That's what we're supposed to be producing, by the way. Producing a product called justice. So you go to producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of a basic textbook and an additional volume called a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide, showing you how to use words, how not to use words, what words to ask questions about when other people use them, in order to get what? A better understanding of the world in which we're in, and the world in which we're in is a world dominated, unfortunately, by people who classify themselves as white, but not just because they're classified as white, but because many of them, not all, but many of them has classified themselves as white in order to practice something called white supremacy, the system of white supremacy, which means to dominate and mistreat people who have color in their skin, non-white people. That's what it's about. And these books, both volumes, the basic textbook and the word guide, are supposed to be designed to help the individual person to combat this system of mistreatment in the form of what is called racism and or white supremacy by replacing that system with a better system individually, each and every day, doing things that will help to replace it. That's what the book is designed for. That's what its intentions are for. I may not have done the best job of doing it, and apparently I haven't, because it hasn't happened yet. We'll only know if we're on the correct track if we can utilize some of the formulas, some of these suggestions in this basic textbook to think, speak, and act in a manner, as individuals, in a manner that will counteract this system of racism and replace it with a system of justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help each and every day, everywhere in the known universe.
All righty. And, before we move off that, you said over in England that you cannot get the word guide. Is that the correct understanding?
Yes, you can get the basic textbook, the 2016 basic book, but you can't get the word guide that came out in 2010 in England right now, but we're working on that.
Okay.
Someone emailed me about that. You can get the basic book by going to producejustice.com, but you can't get the word guide right now in England.
Okay.
But you can get it in what they call the continental United States.
All righty. All right, you're listening to TalkTameItRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. You can get us on your cell or on your tablet. And my name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on there, and you're listening to Mr. Neely Fuller, who is live from Washington, D.C., taking your questions, your Gmails, and phone calls. And speaking of phone calls, we are going to go to line number 3. Line number 3, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
How you doing, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller?
Yes, sir.
It's Brother Muko from
Hey,
Baltimore.
Brother Muko. Yes, sir.
Where we hold the compensatory constructive action discussions here, 3503 Glen Arm Avenue, right off of White Avenue in Baltimore, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Saturday. And that's the headquarters, by the way, the compensatory constructive action discussions. My question for Mr. Fuller today is, Mr. Fuller, for the care unit in Baltimore, can you express how important it is for us as a whole, non-white people as a whole, to learn how to have meaningful discussions and not diverting or deviating from the topic?
Yes. Just start off with any discussion on any subject, because all subjects are going to lead to problems anyway. People talking about their problems. And if it's non-white people, it's going to lead to a discussion about race and or racism. But the best way to start a discussion of any kind is don't mention anything about race and or racism. That's one of the worst ways. I've heard people say that they try to talk about race on the job. No, absolutely not. Well, you have white people around on the job and all like that, and you're going to start talking about race, for one thing, they're immediately going to put up all kind of defenses, and then they're going to become hostile, most likely. See, so you want to always be scientific. Scientific means you do things in the best possible manner to get the best possible result. Always think about the result you're looking for, not just what you're doing. What is going to be the result? So you talk about a thing called justice. This is the thing you focus on in all discussions. Now, what is justice? Justice is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Underline the word constructive. A lot of people say they need help, but when they start going into details about the help that they need, some of that help that they are asking you to help them with is not constructive. So you just raise a question about that. Is this constructive? This thing you want me to help you do? Is it going to have a constructive effect? And if so, how? How is it going to have a constructive effect? Okay. And let them tell you. And just always stay in the question lane for the most part. In any discussion, stay in the question lane and don't argue about the answers that you get to the question. Ask another question.
Yeah.
That's the procedure. See, what starts arguments, you should never have an argument. You should always have a discussion. Now, what's the difference between the two? A discussion always leads to something constructive.
Yes, sir.
All right? An argument leads to something non-constructive.
Okay.
So anytime you get a non-constructive effect in what you're saying, that means you're having an argument.
Yes.
So to get out of that, what's the procedure? Ask questions and don't argue about the answers that you get. Just ask another question.
Okay.
Because questions and answers will take everybody right where they need to be.
Yes, sir.
Not where people particularly want to go, but it'll take everybody right where they need to be. That's the logic of the universe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's not Neely Fuller talking. That's the logic of the universe. And if you don't believe it, try it.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Muko. Appreciate you calling, man. I called you up. Thank you, man. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. That's Brother Muko from Baltimore. All right, Mr. Fuller, from the Gmails from Brother Jason Blunt. He said this. He says, Mr. Fuller, if the warden of the prison is non-white, is that warden still a victim of racism, white supremacy?
A warden of a prison in the system of white supremacy who is non-white is not the warden of the prison. That's just a person who is non-white who has a title, whether it's warden, whether it's president, whether it's emperor, regardless of the title. All non-white people, as somebody once said in a way of speaking, what do you call a black president? All right. And they say you call him the N-word.
Wow.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of title he has? Or she. See, a lot of black people are real caught up in their so-called titles. But in the system of white supremacy, what did your title really mean? And where did you get the title? And who authorized you to have the title?
You're asking questions.
Ask questions, right. Where did you get that fancy title that you say that you're so proud to have? All right? That's a question. And I'm not going to help you with the answer. You answer it. Where did you get that fancy title? The title may consist of maybe 30 words. Where did you get that title that you have before you got to your name? And that title consists of 30 words. The president, imperial, potentate, or whatever, all right? Master, etc., etc., etc. You got a title that consists of 30 words before you get to your name, all right? Now, where did you get each one of those titles, and what does that mean when you consider where you got the titles from? Did you give the titles to yourself? And if you didn't, why not? Did you get them from someone else? And who was that someone else? And what was their intent in giving you that title?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You might have about 3 or 4 dozen questions right behind that so-called title that you are so proud of.
Okay. Quickly, Mr. Fuller, before we go in our remaining moments, and sorry about those phone calls, we're just running up against time, so if you want to maybe call in next week. Mr. Fuller, a question was asked, are discipline and punishment the same thing?
Could be. Depends on what words mean. That's why I have a word guide. I mean, because in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists' words mean what? Whatever they say it means. And they will change the meaning of a word in a minute, in a heartbeat, if it does what? Helps to maintain the system of white supremacy. So it all depends on what you mean when you use a word. That's why the victims of racism, we can fashion words and give them our own meaning, a meaning that makes sense to us. That way we communicate better. All right?
Like a compensatory meaning?
Like compensatory. That's what the word compensatory means, making up for what's missing. And what's missing is a whole lot of understanding of what words mean. So I made up a definition for the word justice. That definition I've been giving out over the air for years. That's the definition I made up. Because then when I make up the definition, I have control of that definition. I didn't see the definition of justice as being guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. I didn't read that anywhere. I made that up in 1984 when I found out there was no legal definition for the word justice.
Yes, sir.
I asked a lawyer. I said, what is the actual definition of the word justice? He says, well, what the word really means is whatever the Supreme Court says it means. And I said, what? They said, yeah. If you're talking about legal definitions, the legal definition for the word justice in the Northwestern Hemisphere is whatever the Supreme Court, quote unquote, says that it is. And I said, well, that means that the definition of justice can keep shifting. Could be.
Could be. Well,
or it may not be.
Okay.
It depends on what they say it is.
All right.
Okay.
I got to put
that won't do.
They're giving
a compensatory way for black people.
I'm sorry to break in, Mr. Fuller, but they're giving me the sign to wrap it up. So I have to say, talk to him at radio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Mr. Fuller.